Gentlemen and ladies, I think it's time for a cheers. We are 10 chapters in to the Fellowship of the Ring. Welcome back to Full of a Took. I'm feeling good. I know everything that's going on. I don't feel overwhelmed. I don't feel nervous or like, oh my gosh, this is such a hard read. In fact, it's like pretty straightforward read. Sometimes it gets a little nuts, but then you explain it and then it feels better. So I just want to say I'm pumped. Here's to the next whatever 65, 80, 90 chapters left. We'll see. But anyway, cheers to chapter 10. Woo. Let's get into it.
So last chapter, the hobbits arrive in Bree and rent a room at the Prancing Pony. While Merry goes for a walk, the rest of the hobbits join the guests in the common room for some drinks. Frodo meets a mysterious ranger named Strider, who points out Pippin is using the name Baggins in his story. To distract the guests from Pippin's blunder, Frodo proceeds to jump on a table and make an absolute ass of himself, singing and dancing, and ends up accidentally slipping on the ring and disappearing, upsetting the guests. He reappears, and Strider says that they need to talk in private. On his way to talk, Butterbur asked to see him as well. It was really hard to narrow that down. I wanted to add so many details because, that chapter and this chapter are my two favorites that we've read so far.
She had 2 pages. This is only 1 page. And she goes, it's impossible to cut this down. And I said, let me see it. It's normal. Laura writes a lot, and it's still only 1 page. And I was like, you usually write like a sentence. So it's so weird that you would have 2 pages. Not much happened. So I looked at it, and she had included this chapter, too. So she almost gave away everything that happened in 60 seconds.
That would have been so funny.
Well, this is just like one of those scenes where even the second read through, it still means so much to me. It's so exciting. It's so far my favorite stuff we've come across.
Well, like in your defense, this is a chapter that it has I think a harder break, more of a cliffhanger than we've seen with other stuff.
Yes.
Like
It felt like one chapter, like one little story that was just kind of divided in 2 because it was too long.
You want to get into it?
Okay. So chapter 10 is Strider. The chapter starts with the hobbits -1 because Merry's still out on his walk. They go back to the room. They're all a little frazzled. Frodo's just jumped off the table, and Sam's the only one that didn't completely fuck things up just now. And so they go back to the room, and they go back to this parlor, which is this unattached room, and there's a little fire going, and they throw some wood on the fire, and the light flares up, and there's Strider sitting in the room with them, and Pippin's the only one who can speak. He's like, "What the fuck is this?" And Strider says, "I said I wanted to speak with you. I have some things that I think you want to discuss, Frodo." And Frodo said, "You said you had some stuff that you think would be to my advantage." Frodo's he's shaken, he's unhappy, he's unfriendly. And Strider says, "Well, yes, I do. And I also have a price." Strider says, "My price is this. You can afford it, but I want to come with you for as long as I want. I want to travel with you." And Frodo looks him up and down and says, "The fuck you will." And so this whole time, Frodo's been super obtuse. He's just "I don't know what you're talking about, man. Who the fuck are you?" Yep. And Strider laughs and he's "Good. You're learning some caution. This is a good thing." Frodo's not amused. And so
that was a test. You passed.
Yeah, that's exactly the tone. It's you passed the first test, kid. Good job. And Frodo's just "So you had something you were going to tell me? So why don't you go ahead and tell me?" And Strider says, "Well, I'm good at being unseen. I can't be invisible like you, but I can be unseen when I want to be. And I saw the strangest thing up on the road. I saw old Tom Bombadil talking to some hobbits. And then I heard the name Baggins, and I thought, now I'm curious. So I followed these 4 hobbits all the way to Bree. And then when they went in the gate, I slipped over the gate, and I followed them to the inn of the Prancing Pony." Nobody really has anything to say to that. And he's like, "There are dark things about as well. Things darker than me. The riders were here on Monday, dark riders. And you should be taking better care of your secrets, Mr. Underhill," essentially is the message. And Frodo kind of takes a breath and he's like, "Yeah, we probably should have stayed in." He's like, "Yeah, you probably should have. There's people in town you can't trust. And you are being grievously incautious. I tried to get in touch with you earlier, but, Butterbur wouldn't let me near you. And Frodo was like, well, Butterbur, I guess. And he cuts to it and he's like, Butterbur doesn't like me because he thinks I look a bit like a rascal. And he gives him this like funny look. So Frodo is getting read like a book, and it's being narrated back to him, and he's clearly unhappy with this whole thing. And he fires back, well, I guess the riders missed me on Monday, so I think, we'll probably be okay, Mr. Strider, or whoever you are. And Strider's like, really? I wouldn't count on that. They're hunting. There's more of them coming. I know what these are. I know how many there are. I know where they come from. And I also know all the lands between here and the mountains. I know the wilds. I know where to go. I know how to get there. I know how to get to Rivendell, which nobody's mentioned until now. So what about it? I think you want my help, right? Sam steps up and says, absolutely not. We don't need you. Get out. You look like a haggard nightmare. You told us not to trust anybody. I sure as hell don't trust you. And you, sir, can get out of here. Really, though, like, Strider, who are you really? Then Butterbur, like, bangs on the door and interrupts the whole thing. Strider disappears into the shadows, and Butterbur comes in. He's so guilty feeling. He looks like when a dog has, like, really fucked up and you just look at them and they look away and like they're so, and they've got that guilty
Who
look.
did this?
Yeah.
Who did this?
Yeah. But like Butterbur has come in and he's like, I am really sorry. I remembered the thing I forgot. I hope to God no harm has come of it. I'm really, really, really sorry for this thing I didn't do. I hope everything's okay. What did you do or not do, Mr. Butterbur? Oh, I have a letter from Gandalf for you. I have a letter I was supposed to mail maybe like 3 months ago. I was supposed to mail this to you. Gandalf says to me, he says, Barley, I'm going to write you a letter. I want to go to the Shire, but you need to send somebody to the Shire. You need to send this letter to this address. Barley, do it tomorrow. And Butterbur is telling this story, and he's got Gandalf calling him Barley, and he says, Gandalf is a great old friend of mine, and I would do anything for you, Gandalf. Like, there's not a post service. So really what he's asking is, like, to just send it with someone to this address. And, like, Nob's busy. Bob's busy. And so it can't happen that day. So in the next day, or the day after that, and then Barley just forgets about it. He puts it up on the mantelpiece so it'll be safe, but out of sight, out of mind. Mm-hmm. And he just forgets about it. And he forgets about it, and he forgets about it. Until Frodo comes up to the door and enters the room, because one of the things that Gandalf said to him was like, there's going to be a little fella. His name is Frodo Baggins, but he's going to go by the name Underhill. And, he's a red-faced, stout little guy. But, all hobbits are, so that ain't going to help you so much. But and he tells him a couple other things about hobbits that are generally, and I think universally applicable to hobbits. So really, again, not helpful at all. I don't blame Butterbur for a lot of this. Like, he definitely should have just sent it, but
People forget things all the time.
what can you do? And then Strider comes marching out of the dark corner of the room, is like, well, you could mail the fucking letter, Butterbur. Jesus Christ, it's Gandalf. He asked you to do one thing, to carry a letter 16 miles. You couldn't do that for a wizard? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Butterbur jumps out of his fucking pants and is like, how did he get
He
in
butter
here?
poops himself.
He butter poops himself. Butterbur butter shits. and he just...
I pooped.
No. So he's mostly just confused about how did you get in this room? I didn't let you in. And Frodo's like, I let him in. He came in with us. And Butterbur's like, he's a rascal. You shouldn't trust him. Strider's response is basically no, the real problems are these dark riders that have been coming through town, and they're around now, and they are hunting, and they come from Mordor. Butterbur, do you understand what I'm saying to you? Do you understand the scale of your fuck up right now? And Butterbur's like, yeah, kinda. I'm starting to see that. I'm starting to get that whole picture now. And so Butterbur does not feel great about himself in this moment. And Strider absolutely takes no pains to disabuse him of the notion that he's been an absolute asshole about this. Because then Frodo's like, well, hold on. Wait, you have a letter? And Strider's like, well, yeah, how about you give him the fucking letter that's 3 months out of due? And Frodo unfolds the letter and he has a little read. And it's basically, Dear Frodo, you need to leave the Shire like yesterday. You need to proceed immediately to the Inn of the Prancing Pony. You absolutely need to be out the door by the end of July. It's like late September at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's about to be his birthday. September 22nd.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like the
He
end of
said you
September.
planned on leaving on your birthday.
Okay.
But he's like, you need to get the fuck out.
So it's like a 2-month delay. Mm-hmm. And
Wait, right now?
no,
It's
well,
past
so,
September.
so now it's past September.
It's October now.
Well, we don't know how long it's been because Tom Bombadil's story could have been hours or weeks. We don't fucking know.
It's true. Also true.
They don't know, but
I'm
it's
just
about
saying.
2 weeks.
I don't think it's been weeks. I don't think it's been weeks.
Lobelia's dishes were left after Frodo's birthday celebrations,
So
which
End
is
of September.
which is end of September.
So
we're now at least 2 weeks or 1 week at least.
think a
maybe
week.
2
Earliest, I
weeks,
think, is
yeah.
the first week of October.
yeah, I think
Ironically,
I think it's
where
early
we are
October.
now.
Yeah, that's actually really funny.
Oh shit!
Yeah, right.
It might be tonight.
We caught up with the books.
Da, da, da.
Actually, we can check. There's a calendar. We should have checked, but
There is a calendar on Tolkienverse.
No, in the book, right? Oh, you're talking about a different calendar.
no, there's a calendar on my wall that you gave me.
Oh yeah,
You remember
that's
that?
right. Yeah.
I fucking love that thing.
Fuck yeah.
Aw.
So they get to the end of the Prancing Pony in October instead of July.
Oh my god.
No big deal. But now they are being actively hunted. So Gandalf does a very funny thing where he says, like, by the way, you're gonna meet a guy. I hope you meet him here. His name is Strider.
Trust
in case
him.
in case you need to prove his identity and so you can trust him. His real name is Aragorn, and here's a little poem.
Doesn't say what the poem's for.
No, he just
here's a poem.
writes a poem, and it's actually I love it. But
beautiful.
but he writes a little poem, and then P.S. Under no circumstances are you to use the ring for any reason
Oh my god.
at all. Nothing.
He reads this 20 minutes after using the ring.
Yes. 20 minutes after using the ring, 2 months after you're supposed to leave.
He's like, fuck.
I'm in so much trouble.
And then there's a postscript that says, there's lots of weirdos out there. Be super sure you're talking to Strider.
Like the real one.
Yeah, the real one. The world is full of rascals. A lot of dirty men can look like a ranger. Make sure you got the right one.
Yeah.
And then postscript, a PPPS.
I love that.
I hope to God Butterbur delivers this fucking letter or I'm going to burn him alive.
Or he's going to roast him.
Yeah.
I love that.
And meanwhile, Butterbur's like, oh God, I didn't deliver Gandalf's letter. He's going to make my beer
Butterbur's
bad.
sitting there going, what's it say? Says you're going to die, buddy. You're going to die.
Here, you read the last end. Because actually, Butterbur makes a kind of a point of being pleased with himself that he can read. Because that's apparently a skill. I mean, it is a skill, but...
A theme with Gandalf is the second person with threatening. He's taught them the fear of fire.
You want to know why? Because his only skill is fireworks.
Wow.
And he turns people into fireworks.
Because you know why, Chris? Because fire works.
Fireworks.
Butterbur knows he's fucked up all the way to his soul. He knows he is desperately fucked up. And he's like, I'm just going to see myself out. And they're like, yeah, you should. So Strider's still in the room with them. And, you know, the point is that any number of dirty men can present themselves and pretend to be a stranger you've never met. And Strider takes a second and he's like, yeah, I am kind of weather-worn. I have been out in the wilds for a whole ass minute. I look kind of dirty and weird. And Pippin is like, yeah, well, you know, my gram used to say handsome is as handsome does, buddy. Then he comes back around and he's like, you know, but hey, if any of us lived in the trees and the wilds, after a couple of days, I'm sure we would look like you. And Strider turns to him and is like, no, you would be dead before you got... You would not live long enough to get as dirty as me.
You'd be dead.
Yeah. and then it gets to this point where it's like, okay, also, what are we going to do with you, right? So you're what... Why should we trust you, big dirty man who says you're a friend? Maybe. And again, Strider's like, well, Point one, if I wanted to kill you, you'd all be dead already. Can we be clear about that? And he pulls out a sword. It's broken, but it's still like as long as a hobbit is tall. Mm-hmm. And secondly, after I kill you, Frodo, I could take the ring from you. And suddenly everybody gets a little uncomfortable. Like a lot of uncomfortable.
Pippin's like,
yeah, it's like Pippin's like is desperately wondering like where is Merry and how fast can we get back to Buckland? Maybe we should all go see how Fatty's doing.
yeah.
Oh my God.
And by the way, I am Aragorn. So no, I'm not going to kill you, you silly children. And Frodo's like, yeah, that tracks. What? And he says like, yeah, I would expect a spy, an agent of the enemy, to look fairer, but feel fouler. Like to be like, this like shining, charismatic person that like you worry about. Aragorn, Strider, is this he's this dirty, capable person who's kind of been toying with the hobbits this whole time. And so like this is the first moment where Frodo has not just been like an obstinate or intentionally misunderstanding things or trying to like, well, I don't know who Mr. Underhill is and I don't know why that's in your fucking business. This is the first time he's been like, oh, I've got this letter from Gandalf and you've kind of like hit a couple of the points here. I guess maybe we can trust you. So what would you propose? And Aragorn's like, I know the whole of the country between here and the mountains. We will go to Weathertop because also Gandalf would go to Weathertop if he's in the area. And then we'll get to pick from many various and exciting, dangerous paths. We'll have to make a choice. And Frodo's like, well, what about Gandalf? Where's he? Why isn't Gandalf here? And Aragorn takes a second. It's very upsetting to think about what could hold up Gandalf if he is this anxious to get you out of the Shire and he can't be here. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot on this earth that can stop Gandalf from doing what he wants. And Frodo's like, well, what about the Black Riders? And Aragorn turns to him and he's like, yes, the Black Riders could. They are from Mordor. They are servants of the Shadow in the East. And the only thing other than the Riders that could keep Gandalf away is the enemy himself. Mm. So, like, in that one moment as a reader, you're like, oh, these Riders are not just spooky. This is, like, these are heavyweights. Mm-hmm. And it's this moment and the fire's going and everybody's like, oh, Gandalf is in fucking trouble. And if Gandalf's in trouble, we are fucked. And then Merry like kicks the door in. He's like Kramer's his way in. With, he's like, you won't believe it, Jerry. You won't believe it. And Nob is with him.
Yeah.
And they're both like wildly out of breath. They're like, Merry, where the fuck have you been? And he's like, I was doing some spying. We got to get out of here. The Riders are in town now. Like they're here now. We got to go.
I'm in danger.
Yes. I'm in danger.
Go.
Guys, it's been fun, but goodbye. But they got to go. And they're like, what do you mean the Riders are in town? How do you know this? Like, what were you doing? He's like, well, I was out kind of having myself a little ramble around town. And then I saw this like weird shadow in the shadows and it scared me. So I hid in a shadow. And then the shadow moved and like went around a corner of and went down the street. So I followed it. And Strider's like, that was not smart. Why would you do that? And he's like, it seemed like the right thing to do at the moment. And he says, I followed it down the street until it got to the end of the lane and it went around the side of a building. So I followed it. And everybody's like, no, why would you?
Following things.
Why? Again, Aragorn is like, he's like, cool, bro, but like, why? And he's like, well, it felt like the right thing to do. And then I spied on them. And everybody's like, okay, and then what? Why are you doing this? And he says, he saw the shadow talking to a man. And this man was like terrified. And they were whispering, and he couldn't quite make it out. And then he heard whispering and he heard noises. And then he just kind of passes out. Like he feels himself just kind of like lose his body and he just falls over and goes to sleep. And that's all he remembers. And then Nob is like, yeah. And then I went out looking for him. And I happened to be doing a wander around because Butterbur said he had fucked up and we ought to find Mary. So I do a little walk around. And wouldn't you know it, at the end of the block, next to Bill Fernie's house, I see two people carrying a little body across the road. So I yell, hey, what you doing with that body? And they drop the body and they run off. And I walk up to the body and I tell you what, it's Mary Brandybuck. Just out.
Yep.
And so, and he didn't look so hot. So I shook him awake. And Mary's like, yeah. And I woke up from this awful fucking dream. And I ran across town and we booked it straight to here. And this all happened like a minute and a half ago. And they're all going like, oh God, they're here. Aragorn is again like, why would you, again, that is incredibly stupid. Why did you do this? I'm trying to understand. And Mary's like, well, you know, I really couldn't help myself after a point. I wasn't making the decision. I was just doing it.
Seemed to be drawn there somehow.
Right. So you get this impression that it's not his will. Like he is under a spell before he passes out. And
More
Aragorn,
breath.
yeah, the black breath is what it's
Yes.
called. Like that's a like sort of a catch-all for a lot of like weird
Dark
magic. Aragorn explains that like that makes a lot of sense because these creatures, these riders, their power is in fear, it's in loneliness, it's in darkness. Theirs is the power of terror, and they won't attack an inn full of people and light and happiness. They won't because that is not their thing. They are strongest in the dark, but they're essentially cowards. But they are. He doesn't say that, but they are these creatures of darkness, and in darkness they dwell, and that their power is fear. So they want you to be isolated. They want you to be scared. They want to wear you down, and they want to destroy you. And there's more of them, and they are coming. We are not gonna go back to our beds tonight. We're just gonna sleep in this parlor room in a different part of the inn. So shut the windows, build up the fire. Nob, go get everybody's shit and bring it back here. And Nob's like, can do, will do. And off he fucks. And then he comes back with all his stuff and he says, I'm really glad I found Mr. Mary in the road. Guys, I'm gonna go watch the door. And like Nob is great in this moment because he also is like, all the best of luck, Mr. Ben Underhill. And you get this impression that like Nob is maybe not the brightest bulb in the whole house. But he's there for it. And he's clearly reliable. And like, you know, you explain to him that there's supernatural horrors hunting these guys. And he's just like, I'm going to go lock the doors, I guess.
Yeah.
A little straw man in your bed.
Yeah.
That's my favorite
the other
part.
thing. Yeah. He's like, and I took a second. I made up your beds like somebody's sleeping in it.
And he got the little mop head for Frodo.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's the little things, right?
Just another dig at Frodo's appearance. Like anytime they can, just a little jab.
And so that's how the chapter ends. The hobbits are tucked up in a little room with an honest to God adult. Finally.
Fucking finally.
Because even Butterbur was like, well, maybe they just stay here for a while. And Aragorn's like, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, you should just hang out for like months here.
Just stay here.
Like 2 more months.
And Aragorn's like,
He's
that
like-
would be
he's
dangerous
like-
for you.
He like pulls the shades up. He's like, they're right there. I can't stay here.
They'll kill you too.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing we should discuss about this chapter is that we're sort of in an inflection point in the book. We've finally reconnected with Gandalf. We have an actual honest to God adult who seems like he's going to be a part of this, right?
It also feels pretty badass.
Yeah.
Right.
Capable even.
Yeah.
like-
very capable.
Yes.
Like this
Not
is
full of tricks. Well, maybe it's a couple tricks.
but like this is a man who
just
can
skill.
Yeah.
who can fix knife problems
Yes.
for the first time.
Sort of. His knife is broken.
His
but
knife is broken, but
But he is the knife.
yes. This is an important moment for the readers and the hobbits, right? We are reestablishing the stakes of what's happening, right? The riders have been scary up to this point, but scary because the hobbits have been scared of them, right? And that, I mean, that's true of any storytelling. A thing is only as scary as the character's reaction to it, right?
And their knowledge of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And now we're learning more. The reaction is still there, but now we're learning more. We learn that these things are like, if there's Mordor and the shadow in the east as the big problem, the reason elves are moving west, dwarves go west, the source of evil in this world, that's number one. Number two is these riders. That was not something we knew a chapter ago. And these are the things that are crawling through the Shire, crawling through Breeland, and currently in Bree with them. Instead of being a fear, it became a real danger.
I can't imagine how it must have felt if you're running away from a foe that's clearly way stronger and you're thinking that you are, you know, like you've got it on it, like you're ahead of it, to find out they're here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it just, I don't know. That feels like it's like it shudders down the body, you know?
Well, I mean, Aragorn even said that to them, right? Frodo was like, well, you know, you said they came by on Monday, but I guess they missed us. That'll be
I
fine.
had anxiety when they said Monday.
Right?
And I was
Fuck
like,
Monday.
I was like, dude,
What day is it?
I was like, is it Tuesday? Is it Friday? Like, what's going on? And I feel like you said they were there like 2 different days even.
As soon as everything happened in the common room with Frodo with the ring, I was like, oh shit. He used something that Gandalf told him not to use. There will be a repercussion one way or the other, besides just the, you know, other guests being very turned off and, you know, offended by it.
Yeah. And it happens so fast too, right? Because like, oh, that thing happens. And we all know that was a mistake. And Frodo's deeply embarrassed and shook and like it's fucking with his cover. But Aragorn's also like, there are spies in town. The shifty-eyed southerner that left, the dude that went with him, and Harry, the guy at the goddamn gate.
Yeah.
And
Bill Ferny.
Bill Ferny.
He was the
Right.
shifty-eyed.
Yeah, he was the
Mr.
shifty-eyed.
Mr.
Yeah.
Shifty Fuck.
And Aragorn was just like, that man will sell a story for anything, and he will tell everyone who you are just to fuck with you.
Right.
Like, he is not
He's
a good...
piece of shit.
Right.
And was it Bill Ferny that was talking to the rider, or was it somebody else?
It was...
It was right outside Bill Ferny's house.
Yeah,
It was outside Bill Ferny's
Nob was
house.
like, you wouldn't believe what I saw outside Bill Ferny's house.
And then the scared guy that
Weird.
they were also talking to is established as Harry, the gatekeeper. Like, Harry, I think, is a good person, but he's petrified. Like, he's a coward. He's not going to stand up to it.
No, he chose to leave with Bill Ferny and the Southerner. He became what he didn't have to go.
Well, that's a good point.
Like, he wasn't on duty.
But do you really think he's going to stand up
This
to
reminds me
people?
of Benny from The Mummy.
Yes.
Who sells out.
Oh my God.
He's a sellout.
O'Connell.
So that's the
Sells
word
out
I'm looking
O'Connell
for.
because he's afraid of
Yeah.
Imhotep.
Well, this goes back to what
It
they
goes back
said
to
at
fear.
the very end of the chapter, where the Black Riders operate on terror.
Yeah.
And they use terror to get people to do what they want.
Yes.
And so they
In
specifically
dark and
said,
loneliness, they are strongest.
yes,
right?
and they specifically said they had words with Harry. I was watching them. He was white and shaking when they left
Exactly.
him.
It was scary.
So he's doing what they want, spying, because he's so scared
But
of
like,
them.
Yeah.
I'm going to be real. If I'm the mayor of Bree or whatever, the dude who can't stand up to strangers is not the guy you put on night guard duty.
Right.
Let me in. Okay.
Are you sure? Well, that's what he did with the hobbits.
Yeah.
He was like, I shouldn't let anybody in, but you are hobbits, and we got hobbits
to
already
be clear,
in.
Harry is a man.
Yeah, he's a human.
Yeah.
Human, right? Not a
Breelander.
hobbit.
Normal person.
So he saw this walking sack of potatoes and was like,
It's not a
sure, come
potato.
on in.
What, the terror bag? You mean the terror-tater?
No, the hobbits.
Oh, the hobbits. Wait, walking bag of
Black
potatoes?
Riders
Just little
away.
tiny things with feet
Oh.
with fucking head
Yeah.
on. And they were like, listen. And they were like, he was like, sure, come on
Well, you
in.
remember that? Like, Frodo sassed him, is like, my business is my own.
Yeah.
And he was like, I guess you're right.
Yeah, like, that's like, you're like, what the? This terrible fucking
He's
guy.
like,
right here.
wouldn't you know
Right.
harm,
Spicy
little
potatoes.
masters?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I-
spicy potatoes.
I am completely turned around on Harry. I think he's probably just somebody that they were like, man, we got to get Harry a job.
I know, that's how I feel.
What's nobody wants to be the night guard.
Yeah, just the most underqualified person in the entire town.
Yep. Harry, your job is to sit there and not open the gate. Can do.
He previously was the trash man, but he was like, it smells terrible. I'm not throwing that out.
Yeah, there's nowhere to put something.
It's your job.
I want
Aw,
gloves.
Harry.
You're fired.
Yeah.
So speaking of the gate, did you guys see who actually slipped over the gate?
We were wrong.
I didn't even pick up on it my first read through. You know how I said I read all the chapters twice? Totally did not pick up on that.
The first time that you read the first
This
10 chapters,
chapter.
were you like, Sauron's a good guy?
No,
Stop.
that wasn't it.
And I feel like
I couldn't fucking believe that we were wrong. I
know.
sat here thinking I had figured it out, and I was like, it's clearly, this is set up that I think it's a Black Rider sneaking over.
Yeah.
It was
And
just
then
the way they described it.
Yeah.
It
It was a
sounded
shadow.
more like
And I was like, oh, it's definitely Gollum.
somebody creeping than like a grown ass man just like.
Well, if you remember
over
how
the
he's
gates.
described, he can disappear into the
Yeah.
shadows and not be
Yeah.
tracked.
That made sense.
And like it just kind of shows the level of the ranger magic that he has.
Yeah, he's very good at disappearing. He does it repeatedly in
reappearing.
this chapter.
What's the guy with long hair from What We Do in the Shadows?
Nandor?
Yeah.
Nandor.
Nandor.
The
relentless?
The relentless. Striders give me a bit of vibes of him, of like just like appearing and being like, "Hello."
Oh my God, you've poisoned my mind. I'm gonna see that.
And Butterbur is the bald guy.
Colin Robinson.
Colin Robinson.
No, he's not. We haven't met Colin Robinson yet.
No.
And he's like, the thing that's going on at the Prancing Pony is downstairs.
No, but God Almighty, Butterbur fucked up so hard.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I do have a bunch of things I want to jump into here. My first note I took on the whole chapter was, where is Mary? Because he's still gone. He's been this Mr. Protective. I know everything. I know everybody. I know how all this works. Gets to this town, and he's like, oh, this is a good place to be. And then he's like, see you later.
Well, that's probably why he was out and about,
Yeah.
poking around. He's like, I know everybody. I'm just gonna go see what's going on around here.
And I was sitting there going, this fucking guy, like, I don't know. He's probably like in
It's
a
so
brothel.
uncharacteristic.
Like, what's he doing?
I was gonna say, like,
you know?
my thought was that in any other book, I would have said, Mary's got a girlfriend out here. Like, he's going to check up
Okay.
on his second family.
Think about this, right? You guys go to a town, like we all go 1, 2, 3, 4. We go to a town we've never been in, and one of us is like, "I'm going out. I'll see you guys later."
So 100%.
Don't be suspicious. It's so suspicious. Like honestly, it's so suspicious. So I was very like, I don't know how I feel about this. I can't believe it's going to be 2 chapters of no fucking Mary. And then I had to.
Wait, hold on. Who's been fucking Mary?
I had to
Not
take
Goldberg.
my foot and insert it into my mouth because
Delicious.
at the end of this chapter, Mary comes in and saves him.
Right?
And I was like, God damn it, Mary.
Well, just as he went ahead.
You're pretty fucking awesome.
Good
and
job.
I feel bad that I was doubting you.
Yeah, just as he
Yeah,
went ahead
yeah.
before and prepared the house, he once again was like,
I
no
would
one
hardly fucking compare preparing a house bath.
so-
Well, no, he's
to
always
saving them
thinking
from
2
Black
steps
Riders.
ahead.
So here's the thing.
He's always thinking 2 steps ahead. He knew they wanted to get drunk. He's like, one of us has to go scout and see what the fuck's going on here. Because he was pretty sure it wasn't going to be an easy just go into the inn and have some drinks. Like, he's always thinking 2 steps ahead, and that's what I love about Mary.
Right, like, so
The last
recast.
3 chapters would beg to differ with that. But
Here's
yeah.
the thing. If you recast Mary's character as like a badass in an action movie and he's like, I'm going out for air. You're like, yeah, he's going to go kill someone and find something important. But
he's
it's
a hobbit.
Mary. Yeah, so he's like, I'm going to go outside for a walk. No, but it's Mary is, I think he's not maybe the strongest or the smartest or the most loyal necessarily, but he is the most practical. He is the closest thing to an adult that any of them is.
Yeah, so I'll lead Crow on that.
Welcome
he
back.
will inevitably piss me off again.
That's fine, but the important thing is you're
meant to.
welcome back for season 2.
Yeah.
I specifically have a note here that accurately sums up how I feel. He talks the talk,
Yeah.
period. But he also walks the walk.
Right.
And I can't argue that.
So like another character that we're gonna, I think, see like walk the walk and talk the talk is Aragorn,
100%.
right?
I hope so.
I really enjoyed, at least at the beginning of their conversation, Frodo and Strider, before he knew he was Aragorn. Frodo is so mad. He's just getting heated. He's real angry about everything that's happening. And Aragorn's just sitting back. Good job, little man. Like, he's being kind of a jerk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's even better if you picture him
but-
as like Hank Hill.
it flip-flops at a certain point where the hobbits are starting to kind of joke around about stuff, and Aragorn's like, no, it's time to be serious.
Right.
I will kill you if this joke continues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was funny that like flip-flops a couple times during the conversation.
Yes, very much so. It's honestly really interesting that it's like when Frodo's being like dumb, and he's like trying to explain things, and Frodo's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
There's a really
My
great
friend
quote about
Gandalf sent me to look for
And he's
4
like,
hobbits.
Glamloff? I've never heard of him. And he's just like saying, I was sitting there, I was getting so mad.
It said he was still determined not to understand Strider's hints. So like he's trying to keep some stuff from him, but I think he also internally doesn't want to know what Strider is about to say.
Right.
He's like, this is sounding very bad. Let's just play dumb for a little while, and maybe it won't be as bad as I think it is.
Yeah.
This dirty weirdo talking in the third person.
Like he was intentionally being obtuse here, and I think part of it was trying to be more careful than he has been in the past, and any of them have been in the last 45 minutes.
For those who don't know, why don't you explain to the audience what obtuse means?
Just like intentionally pretending he doesn't understand something.
For those who don't know what something means, why don't you explain
Jesus
that?
Christ.
What about our non-English audience?
No, but I have
That's
to
a Norm Macdonald joke.
I have to say, Aragorn would be my favorite character. I absolutely adore him, but I fucking can't stand the third person talk.
Well, that's Strider.
What's
Well, that's the
interesting
thing is that's just Strider. I know, but it's like he adopted this whole personality.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah,
because
right?
I don't know this, but I'm guessing that Strider is his alias, that everyone
Yes.
knows
So he
him
put on this
as.
persona, and like Frodo even calls him out on it. It's like at first you were talking to me like a Bree lender, you were acting like a totally different person, and now in the room your body language
'Cause
is changing.
Yes,
So it's
because
like, yeah, he's
Aragorn
really
is
a
the
great
son
hunter.
of Arathorn. I don't know who Arathorn is.
It's
but
Aragorn's father.
It was worth mentioning. So I'm assuming. Fuck you. Of course it's his father.
I don't know.
There was also like a line in the poem that I was
Aragorn.
like,
Yeah. So we'll tie this all together real fast. Strider is an alias, right? And so something to touch on really quickly about this is like Strider mentions for a moment. He's like, "Yeah, sorry, maybe my personal skills aren't so great. I spend a lot of time alone and being hunted.
Yeah.
It's cool to know people." Like that, he kind of like he mentions that and then drops it, and everything glosses over that
a
fact.
hunted man sometimes wearies of distrust and longs for friendship.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
I don't
He's
want
a
to
lonely
interrupt,
boy.
but earlier when we brought up that the enemy has laid traps for him before, that whole line is like one of my favorite lines that he ever says.
To kind of tie it back to what we were getting into, Aragorn, son of Arathorn, is somebody. That's another
somebody.
That's another big thing because Gandalf's poem is wild.
Oh, let's talk about that.
That's
Yeah.
one of my favorite
Let's-
writings in the
let's-
entire series.
Somebody have that?
I
I
do.
do.
Let's.
Well,
You do.
That's okay.
Make sure that it's the real Strider. There are many strange men on the roads. His true name is Aragorn. And then it just cuts into this beautiful poem. I thought it was beautifully written compared to all the songs that we've heard lately.
Ooh.
All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken. A light from the shadows shall spring. Renewed shall be blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be king.
And that's him. That's Aragorn.
Yeah, he pulls out his broken blade.
Yeah.
So that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But the crownless again shall be king.
So
What's that about?
it's about this broken kingdom in the north, right? It's It's the kingdom of Arnor. It's that, remember they passed that tree-lined dike that they thought was the road, but it was the border of an ancient kingdom. And there are these rangers that wander around to this old weird lineage that are like protectors and owners and just the wild things in the woods. That's the rangers. That's Aragorn's people.
Is he king of the Rangers? King of the North?
Maybe.
Wait, is that another show?
It is. It is.
I hope it goes better. They're going to have a rough time. So Aragorn, his gravity that he brings to this is like you are meant to understand and infer that he is somebody capital S. If Gandalf is like the person you are desperately hoping walks into the room to fix things, Aragorn's like pretty high up on the list if Gandalf's going to recommend him.
Yep. Absolutely. Another thing that came out of this letter, was this the first time that we had a date?
Yeah. It was,
so.
what, 14?
18.
In the
Yeah.
Shire
Shire
reckoning.
year.
In the what?
The
Shire year. but
Shire years. They
it's
have their
not
own
reckoning
calendar.
yet.
Ah,
It's just
They-
the Shire year.
They have their own calendar.
okay.
Interesting.
And that was something I want to talk about too, because like this world is old. And it knows it's old. And like the hobbits have a calendar that goes back almost 1,500 years in the Shire. And the hobbits of Bree are like,
The hobbits were in the Shire for 1,500 years?
yeah,
Oh,
that's been their
shit.
country for 1,500 years.
Damn. Okay.
And the hobbits of Bree are like, we were here before that. And the men in Bree are like, we are the furthest west that men still live. There were men before, men in the first age, but most of them are dead. And we are what's left. And there used to be a kingdom in the north, and that's gone. But this is us now. And like, we
so the
get
Shire did not exist when you've brought this up several times about Isildur when he takes the ring from Sauron.
yeah,
How many years ago?
about 2,500.
2,500
So
years
yeah,
ago.
it's about 1,000
So there's
years.
1,000 years with no Shire before the Shire exists.
Yes.
Wow.
So,
oh my God.
And so for like everybody today, something to consider there is like the timing of that is like, it is further, like today, a fun fact, if you want to be upset by things, is we are closer to Cleopatra and Julius Caesar and the birth of Christ than any of those people were to the building of the actual pyramids, like the Great Pyramids at Giza. These things are thousands of years old. The Shire is old. But this ring and the story behind it and the people behind
like
it
twice as old.
are ancient beyond, like, they're so old that it almost doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Tom
always been
Bombadil
there.
is even older than that.
Right.
Technology hasn't like advanced very much.
So, I mean, that's...
It still
'Cause they
feels like
did-
medieval.
Because they have the evil of the ring, not the evil of technology.
But it was like it was like medieval back when.
Because
I
the
mean,
ring
it's like
couldn't
so
function
medieval.
with computers. You would do one Google search.
I mean,
like,
something to consider is like, how has technology advanced even in our time, right? Because like,
True.
What did we do? We went from the first manned flight to getting on the moon in 100 years.
I think
And
this is meant to be more of like an idyllic fantasy world,
Yeah,
though, where
yeah.
like
Nothing ever
technology
changed.
has not
Technology, no
tainted it
technology.
yet.
and part of that too is like
They
the
could have
elves.
just gotten a Google Maps.
Right.
They'd be there very
But I think
quickly.
too, with the note about the nursery
Satellite maps.
song turned body drinking tune by Bilbo, aka Tolkien, and then he says, in recent times, only a few phrases are remembered. I feel like he's kind of saying this was our like past forgotten history, and all these magical beings have like fucked off to the west, and now
Yeah.
this is humanity now with the crumbs of this world.
Yeah, this is a
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like it's so old that it's like beyond anything that we even know. But some legends and stuff remain.
because
At least that's how I read it.
Yeah, because nothing else does, right? Like this kingdom has fallen. We have rangers who are the last of them, just wandering like weird strangers in the wilderness.
I'm assuming there's not a lot of rangers left.
Right. They are rarer now than they were
Right,
in
okay.
times past.
There's a bunch of men. There's a bunch of hobbits. It's sort of just the daily chum that comes through.
Yeah.
The fact that Strider's there is like almost noteworthy. I think he says something like, "Oh, he comes around like every
month or year
couple
or
months
whatever.
or years or whatever." So the fact that Strider stands out, I'm curious if there's other Rangers coming through.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it mentions that Bree is like a gathering place for Rangers.
But
Rangers
for
come through.
Strider, like I think he was supposed to meet up with Gandalf
Oh,
and
yeah.
go to
Well,
Elrond with them.
And that was a whole thing.
And so when Gandalf didn't meet him at the meeting point, he's now been searching because he's like plan B. And so when he heard the
Strider
talk
took
of
a plan B. Yeah.
yeah, when he heard Bombadil talking to the hobbits and mentioned some things, he then
He
started
definitely needed plan B after Bombadil.
he started stalking them, and that's when he meets up with them. So I think he's been pacing around, being like, Gandalf didn't show up, something's amiss, and Gandalf set him in place to lead them if he couldn't.
Yeah, because Aragorn even like alludes to this whole thing. Like Gandalf did not leave the Shire unguarded.
Correct.
Like Rangers were patrolling the borders outside of the Shire. Aragorn was one of them, and he felt like Gandalf had things in hand enough that Aragorn could leave and go off on some of his own business, and it would be
Which he
fine
now
when he came back.
regrets.
Which he now regrets because when he came back, Gandalf had fucked off already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he was just gone, and there was no news of him. Guys, what can keep Gandalf busy? What can make
Yeah.
Gandalf late?
Something very strong.
Speaking
Right.
of, I had a question for you. Early on, when he starts talking about how the Black Riders come from Mordor, and there's the shadow in the east. So I think it's fairly obvious the shadow in the east is Sauron. But why won't he say the name? Is this one of those like say the name and I summon him and he can see me kind of a thing? Like, is there he who must not be named going on?
Is
I
it worse
think-
to say Mordor or is it worse to say Sauron?
So I'll let you
Sauron.
answer. But I was like, I definitely know you don't speak the black tongue or the dark tongue. Which one is it?
The Black Tongue.
The black tongue at night.
Yeah.
Because that's when it's most powerful. So with the
Interesting.
language, when Gandalf wouldn't read the inscription of the ring fully, and he said some things in English, he was like, I can't say this here at night.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And also in the presence of the ring. It's not even about Sauron himself. I took it as like the spies of Sauron.
The takeaway from this is that language is powerful. And what is Tolkien? He's a linguist. Even in like folklore, like true names and names, and he who shall not be named. Like it's unlucky to speak about evil things.
Okay.
Because there's this like sense that you would summon them into being, right? So like even though that's not yes, that's is that not exactly it?
That's exactly it.
I'm the
and
one
then-
person that would summon Beetlejuice, be like, woohoo!
And then like Michael Keaton appears.
Keaton.
So at the end of the day, it's not explicit, it's more implicit about this idea that like the shadow in the east, you speak in metaphor a little bit. There's no like rule against saying Sauron, but
It's not like if you say his name, he can see you.
yeah, it's not like that. But like also maybe it is, because even Gandalf.
Do you want to play that game? You know what I mean?
Well,
Right, yeah, that's just it. Like, why would you tempt things that you don't really know? Because Sauron, at this point, Sauron is an ancient and immutable evil. He is basically this world's devil,
For those who don't understand what immutable means, why don't you explain it for them?
unchanging,
every word that you use.
ceaseless. He is the shadow in the east.
When you say shadow, why
Ceaseless
don't you
watcher.
explain it for everybody else?
Fuck you.
Well, I think too it goes back to like conquering fear and fear of a thing itself. And I feel like they're not saying the name because I think when you keep reminding, especially for someone like Frodo, that Sauron is what you have to go defeat. Basically, it will probably make the ring more terrifying. So just being like the shadow in the east, this vague, troubling thing, I think it helps like soften the blow of the reality that Frodo's learning what he actually got signed up for.
Oh my god! Imagine though you're Frodo and you're like, "Fucking thank God we found an adult."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
And then immediately Sam's like, "No, we're good."
fuck off.
Yep. Sam
Why
stands
he
there
calls
with his
that?
mouth
Wait,
open.
I love when he's like, "You're a stout little fellow." He's like,
Yeah.
"Good for you."
He's like,
he
I
loves him
appreciate you
immediately.
saying this.
Yeah.
Listen up, hot dog. I'll slice you down the middle pretty fucking quickly.
Well,
Yeah.
I got a kick out of. They used the word stout in this chapter at least 3 times.
Yes.
The first time was describing Frodo's appearance.
Right.
So okay, so he's stout. So sure, he's small and round or whatever. The second time, it definitely was not appearance related.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
No, to be stout.
Stout and redhead?
So-
Oh, no, that was the
no.
first
It
time.
means
No,
More
to be
like brave.
Yeah, to be stout is like to be sturdy and to be reliable. And if you are stout, are you like a sort of a quiet bravery.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Courage.
When I read this, I was like, stout. That's a very strange word to use in this context.
It's a beer.
It was when Sam was not daunted and he eyed Strider dubiously. How do we know you're Strider that Gandalf speaks of? You never mentioned him till the letter came. You might be a spy for all I see. What do you have to say to that? Strider says that you are a stout fellow. So I wanted to know, is there a secondary definition that I'm not familiar with? So I looked it up, and really a secondary definition of stout is bold, brave, firm, determined, or obstinate. So he's not calling Sam fat right now. He's saying you are obstinate, you are firm in your
Brave,
decision
bold.
not to trust me.
Right. That really changes it from, aren't you a fat little fuck?
Yeah, I was like, that doesn't make any sense to call him fat right now.
Okay, fat boy.
Yeah.
And they also say that Merry has a stout heart when he goes to chase the shadow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense either. So let's go with the other definition.
That's awesome.
I gotta be
says-
honest, guys. I was very pleasantly surprised to find out that Butterbur was a good person. When he said, I'm a friend of Gandalf's, I felt like a rush of joy go through my body. I was like, oh, thank God. And then my dude Butterbur fucked up.
Yep. Yep.
You fucked up.
And he
so
was
big.
like, so
All the way up.
I forgot something. I'm doing good now by delivering the thing I was supposed to deliver, but I just want you to remember that I am technically fulfilling my duty. It's just late. I kind of related to him. I mean, he's a working guy. I'm married to somebody who has a photographic memory. I think and you guys obviously know this. Everybody knows this. I'm not the greatest at remembering things. And so I really felt reading this chapter a tremendous amount of empathy for Butterbur. Butterbur tried. He even says, I tried. The first 5 days he had the letter, every single person leaving the Prancing Pony, he was like, are you going to Shire? Could you take this? And they were like, no, I'm not going to Shire. And he was like, okay, no problem. I'll get somebody else. And that's when he's like, are you going to Shire? Could you take this? And they were like, no, I'm not going to Shire.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, well, I'll put this here. The next person that tells me they're going to Shire, I'll send it with them. And then probably like me, paper goes on top of the book, and then the bills go on top of the paper, and then someone's wife comes in and picks up the pile, puts it in their office upstairs, and he goes, wow, it looks so great having no papers here whatsoever, and forgets all about what's upstairs.
Good thing everything's taken care of.
Yeah, and I've had that moment where someone has been like, hey, how's the Pico bill? And I go, and it flies into my head, and I go, the Pico bill. And it flies, and I shoot back a couple weeks to the thing I never opened. It feels like Tolkien is trying to steamroll Butterbur. I just want to say I empathize with him.
Yeah. He's a friend of Gandalf's, but he's also an innkeeper.
Yeah, like a struggling single proprietor, innkeeper of an inn that used to do really well when the road was busy. Now the road is not busy. He's trying to make sales. He's trying to keep everyone happy. This wizard comes in and gives him an insane request. He has no staff. He has 2 hobbits. He can never find Bob. And he couldn't send Bob or Nob. He needed him.
Yeah, that's what he's like. This is what it's like to be in the restaurant business, and to be in service is to be in a state of constant crisis.
Yes.
Everything is the most important thing.
Right.
So the moment that letter stopped being the most important thing, it became nothing.
Because even that same interaction, it was like at first Frodo was in crisis because he took the business away. Frodo turned off the guests and they all stopped drinking and went upstairs or left. And he was pissed because he was like, I was expecting 2 more hours of pints and you just fucked me. I'm not going to make money tonight. I just lost 400 pounds. You fucked me. And then he was like, oh, fuck, I fucked him.
Yeah, right?
I forgot his letter.
Yeah.
Like the tables turn, and it's just like you kind of feel from him in that moment. You're like, man, you're just struggling to make ends meet.
Would you mind reading 17E?
17, the letter, part E, rest in peace, bud.
R.I.P., Bubby.
I was
gonna
not
die.
feeling so empathetic. I was like, what would this have looked like if he had delivered that letter on time?
The owner cannot leave the restaurant.
Well, I'm not saying he had to. If that letter had been delivered on time.
He's the cook, the bartender,
And neither one of his staff can reach the bar.
Or right. Like, no, Knob is described as not so great.
They're
He's
not
wait, what was the
bartenders.
term? I wrote
They're
it down.
slow
A
of
slow
pate.
pate. No, a
Yeah.
slow pate,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
pate means head.
It's like if you ran a bar with 2 4-year-olds.
Oh, yeah.
How much responsibility are you actually going to give
They
them?
have such small hands and they drop everything.
Oh, and the
Honestly,
one works
so
in the
sticky.
stables, which is so messed up.
Yep.
They're all trying their best.
I think this is really interesting because we spent the last couple chapters just kind of like living with hobbits.
It has been a very Hobbit central story, right?
Yeah.
This is the first time where we reconnect with Gandalf. We now have Aragorn. Like, we have friends.
I wanted to bring something up.
Son of Erith.
Going back to who you can trust and who you can't trust as you read through the chapter. If you were reading through this without any knowledge of what's to come, would you have trusted Aragorn? Would you have believed what he said? Because Sam has a great point that he didn't mention that he knew Gandalf until that letter from Gandalf showed up.
There were 3 things he said that gave me clues that he was in on it from a positive source and a negative source. Because he revealed he knew the name Underhill and the name Baggins. He revealed he knew about the ring. And he also revealed that he was who Gandalf's letter said he was without reading the letter. And Frodo even says, how did you know that? You didn't read the letter.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like he then says about he's lonely and he wants just friends without trying, basically.
I would not have trusted him because I have played Dungeons and Dragons. And more than once, I've been killed in my sleep because somebody came up and said they
A
were my
rogue.
friend. Yep. And he says, guys, I got it. I'll watch the fire tonight. Y'all get some sleep. And then nobody wakes up. If I was Frodo, I would have pushed Aragorn up against the door and surrounded him on 3 sides for a flanking bonus, and the story would go differently.
No, but that's a great point that he's already mentioned Aragorn in this story.
Yes.
We are
My mind is like not a sieve. It's like a
of a sieve.
A trap.
steel
A
trap.
glue trap.
A glue trap. A fly swatter.
Oh my God.
I've got a bug zapper of a mind.
Zapper in here.
Nothing
I got
survives.
a Venus flytrap
Every
of a
time
brain.
something comes through, it goes, it's done.
I
Thought no more.
get a little tickle. It's not a problem. So no, so this has been like a Hobbit story for a minute, and now we're finally revisiting characters that we know, trust, and we know that the Hobbits desperately need. Not great news. Gandalf's gone, but
And even Aragorn is worried.
and Aragorn's everyone is worried.
There's
Gildor
concern.
was
Everyone is
worried.
like, they're like, where's Gandalf? He's the thing that's better than riders. He's the thing like, but he's not here now. Fuck.
Yeah,
Fuck.
Butterbur's worried.
I'm sure everybody is walking a little faster towards the Grey Havens.
The fact that Aragorn is worried is the really big thing. Before we move on, the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the last couple of lines of this chapter, because it was really easy to just read through it and gloss over and miss it. But there's a really deep and kind of scary line here. So Merry is, getting caught up on what Frodo did while he was gone. So he says, "Very ridiculous of you, Frodo, but I wish I had been there to see. The worthies of Bree will be discussing it 100 years hence." "I hope so," said Strider. Then they all fell silent, and one by one the hobbits dropped off to sleep.
Oh, fuck.
So the first time I read it, it was like, oh yeah, I hope
Glory,
so. I hope
right?
they'll remember it. And
Yeah.
then they just go to sleep. And then I was like, wait a second. The second time I read through the chapter, when he says, I hope so,
If you don't
does he
all
mean
die.
I hope they'll remember, or I hope they'll still be here?
Yeah, I hope there's still a Bree in
100
100 years.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Oh.
thinking it's like this like glory memory. Like, do you remember the one time that hobbit danced and sung the song?
And he jumped and disappeared.
Oh, it was the best times.
Yeah.
But when you pull back,
Yeah.
Strider
Aragorn.
/ Aragorn is saying
I hope
there may not even be a Bree.
I hope there's a prancing pony in
the
100
prancing
years.
pony might
Yeah.
be gone.
But also going to be a note on how much they're struggling at the restaurant.
Yeah. With prices out here, it's gonna take a lot of work to keep it afloat.
Yeah. Hopefully
Nope.
it's still here.
But like, yeah,
12 rocks for a beer?
weird.
Hey, I have a fun game for everybody to play. Everybody close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. If you're at the Prancing Pony, you're standing at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Butterbur?
Barleyman.
Barleyman is standing there ready to take your order. What are you ordering?
Just a nice English ale.
I think in this moment, this night, I'm going to take a mead.
Half a chicken and a liter of house brow.
I'll take an extra special bitter, please.
Everybody's eyes closed still?
Yep.
Okay. We hear some scuffling as Barleyman goes around. He prepares a few things. And Barleyman puts everything on the bar. You hear the sounds of it, and...
Open your eyes.
Hey! This is exactly what I wanted. Drinks!
Here.
Where's my chicken?
So, in keeping with the fact that we are in the Prancing Pony, this lovely inn and pub, and that no other food was mentioned in the chapter, we are drinking beer for food for thought today.
Yeah.
But it goes a little deeper than that.
Okay.
So I mentioned my favorite word that was mentioned at least 3 times in this chapter was stout. Here we have some
these stouts?
stout beer. They are stouts,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Let's do it to it.
Cheers
Ooh, it
Cheers,
smells
folks.
good. Cheers.
To
to the Prancing Pony.
To the Prancing
Aragorn.
Pony. Aragorn.
To finding an adult.
Yes. Wow, that's fantastic. That's a delicious beer. What kind of beer is this?
that's good.
It's a Founder's CBS.
Coffee breakfast stout.
Yeah.
It used to be my favorite beer.
Coffee, chocolate, maple syrup.
Yeah, it's really
so
nice.
thick and heavy. Very strong, too.
14.5%. I don't know.
It was pretty strong.
11.5.
Like you could get
This is not a light beer.
You get a hobbit drunk.
Yeah.
Well, it's good because these are like Hobbit-sized little
Yeah.
mugs here.
Fun fact, these mugs are my late grandmother's mugs
Yeah.
that she
You want
shared
to turn them around?
for many years.
Oh, I
And
got drink to relax.
they all have a little saying on it. What's yours say?
I drink to relax.
And what's yours say?
I drink to remember.
I drink to protest.
I drink to believe.
I just want to say one final thing. It's with a heavy heart that I have to let everybody know that unfortunately, Bartholomew Butterbur did not make it. He was roasted alive by Gandalf shortly after this episode was recorded.
You don't know. You fool.
Gandalf says, I will kill him.
Gandalf is not a
The
liar.
escalation on that is so funny because Butterbur's like, oh my god, I hope he doesn't turn my beer sour. And Gandalf's like, in writing, I will kill this man.
I will roast him
I'm
alive.
going to put him on fire.
The funniest thing is that he
I'm going to tie him
seals
to
it.
the next dragon firework and set
Right.
him in the sky and explode him.
I'm gonna melt him like a candle. Period. And then he folds the letter up. He's like, Brylin, please deliver this to my friends.
Yeah.
Like, please do.
I like that he wrote that bit about how untrustworthy and lazy he is before he even
No,
gave
actually,
him the letter.
he said
Yeah.
he is trustworthy, but he's the mind
Well,
like a
right,
lumber
right,
mill.
right.
I
Yeah,
think it
yeah,
was.
yeah, like a block of wood or something.
Yeah, like basically was referring to him as like a block of wood in there.
But it's important to know the people that you're entrusting very important letters
He's like
to.
he's adult, but I hope he follows through.
He's literate. What else can you say?
All right, guys. Chapter 10 is done.
Yay!
On to chapter 11, which is called
A knife in the dark.
A Knife in the Dark. I am so excited to
I'm Pat.
get into... I am so excited to get into chapter 11. Honestly, I didn't think I would be able to get to chapter 10 so easily. Thank you to my co-host for keeping this moving and grooving. And to all of our tooks and all of our fools and all the people following, listening, watching. We love you guys. All right, guys. You ready?
Oh yeah.
To chapter 11, we go. Woo!